Yo, peace and blessings, everybody. Jura Hassan D. Children's Enlightening Minds Enterprise, your personal healing and health master life coach. With Enlightening Minds Enterprise, you see, my sole objective is to help improve our personal and our social health by helping us recognize many of the selfish habits and inclinations that we developed over the years through unhealthy social programming and unhealthy forms of love. So with that being said, this is typically done by many different topics and just concepts, phrases, ideas, whatever it is. I talk about a number of different things, and so what I try to do is use everyday life examples, everyday things that we deal with, we think about, we speak about, and find different principles or different things that we can pull out of those examples that we can apply to our daily life. And see, with the objective, not just apply in the sense of thinking about or speaking about them every now and then, but I'm talking about creating rituals out of it. And I'm not talking about just no inner ritual, but I'm talking about rituals for success. That is what my whole objective with Enlightening Minds Enterprise is, to improve our personal and social health. So with that being said, today I wanted to speak to y'all about what is being spoken about right now by seemingly everybody, which is the Central Park 5, also known by the documentary as When They See Us. When They See Us. Written, I think she was produced by, I can't say written by, but produced by Ava DuVernay, if I'm correct, and hope I pronounced that name right. And the five boys at the time when this occurred is Raymond Santo, Kevin Richardson, Antron McCrae, Yusuf Salam, and Corey Wise. I think it's Corey or Kerry Wise. I have Kerry here for some reason, but I remember on the documentary it was Corey Wise, and they was from the ages of 14 to 16, and they were from the ages. Pardon me for a second. They were from the ages of 14 to 16. And this happened back in 1989. They did between 6 to 13 years. If I'm correct, Corey actually done 15 years. I think he done 13 or 15 years flat. Or he was close to doing 15, so maybe he just done 13 total. But anyway, whatever the case may be, Corey at the time was like 16. He was the oldest of the group. However, he was also, according to the documentary, he was not on the list to even be investigated. However, being a friend, trying to make sure his buddy was okay, he ended up, going with him. And he the one who suffered the most. His story of that story probably is the story that is most felt, because this little brother suffered a lot. And I'm going to tell you, man, it really hurt me a lot, because the first time I put the documentary on, I had to turn it off. I only watched like so much, because in my mind I seen already the fuckery, and I'm like, oh, fuck this shit, man. I don't want to see no more of this shit. After seeing the same story over and over, which is, I don't mean like literally the same story, but we see that the injustices, the dealing with us when we ain't did nothing wrong. We see that, just because of how we play and the way our hood culture is. Everything about our hood culture is damn near against the law. So it's like the way we do our fun is the way the way that the courts, or I would say, quote unquote white people, the way that they deal with us is by writing laws. It's like they don't deal with trying to understand us. They don't try to understand us in a way to where it betters our relationship between each other. They try to understand us in a way to where it benefits them, in a way to where they can subjugate us as a result of what they understand and know about us. But in a way, the brother who played Corey Wise, the brother did, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he don't get an Oscar for it, because the brother done a very, 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 very good job, man. And funny because with all I've been through, I'm still able to definitely be empathetic when others suffer. And even while I was in the streets and doing this wild stuff I was doing, I've always had I would say a heart for. I wasn't the one to just wrong people. At least that's not how I seen it anyway. So I just didn't flat out. I ain't like to see people suffer. So seeing that would that would affect me a different way. But anyway, the point I want to make with this here is that understanding for those of us who have sin. I know some of you might not see it because you can't swallow it, you can't tolerate it, you can't sit there and just do it. I get it. But if you can, it's very helpful to let your young men see it. With you there. Because let me tell you something, even though the kids were the one that felt probably the most pain, who suffered probably the most because they was children. You had parents who can learn from this. You had mothers that can learn from this. You got fathers that can learn from this because the father that we seen on there, he failed his son, man. He was a coward, all behind a jaw. Lock me up. Come on, man. I'm not finna tell my son to just ride with what you say. I mean, that wasn't a good look for a black man on that at all. I mean, I know it's not no fault of the lady who produced it. That must be the story. You know what I'm saying? It's a documentary. And but I'm just saying, it's a lesson on there for many of us to learn from. And so just looking at it just from that one perspective of just, see, it's why you gotta be careful. I mean, I'm saying this is what we would normally tell our sons. Instead of just looking at it from this perspective of saying, see, you got to be careful. You can't be just out there doing this, that, and other. You got to watch who you with. You got to watch where you hanging and where you going. I mean, all that's true. All that's true. I mean, but it's more to it, man. I mean, we have to prepare them more and better, but we also got to be prepared. It don't mean we got to be law students. But we need to know some fundamental general stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? But let me say, I say all that also with in mind that. Because this talk is about victims and how to recover afterwards. You see, because I'm one against being a victim. For myself, I'm not going to be a victim for nobody. It's going to be some casualties, you hear me? And I'm just being real with you. I'm saying I'm past the point of sitting idly by or wanting somebody not to do this, that, that, and other than me, and they do it anyway, and I'm crying, want to tell somebody else. Listen, man. Now, we can talk about it. We can try to come to some kind of resolve. But for me to just become a victim, and I'm saying a victim is something that you can't stop what's going on. You didn't put yourself in this situation, and you cannot stop what's going on. I mean, hey, understand this here. Let me say this before I go on this here. Let's just say somebody tried to rob you, you fought to rob and got killed. From my view, you're not a victim. That person tried to do whatever, you went to war with them, you might have got killed in the war. I mean, it's just, my view is just, I know some people might be like, man, that's crazy, I'm going to let them have this shit, and woo, 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 woo. I mean, if that's the case, I'm not going to say you're wrong for letting them have it. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to let them have it, depending on what it is. But if it's like they come up in here and what they finna alter my life with what they finna take, and have me jammed up and strained up for a little bit, shit, it's finna be some tussling. And you're gonna have to go ahead. I'm finna see you for real, for real. But anyway, my whole point though is that we're talking about victims though. These brothers were victims. These kids were victims. And Corey specifically was a victim And I'm gonna say, you know, I stopped because I had another thought, but I had to remind myself, I'm talking about a kid. I'm talking about a kid who was in a man's world, a man, and not men, not gods. I'm talking about he in a world full of beasts and animals. Because even the men that was there didn't stop it. They didn't preserve this man's humanity. They didn't protect this man's humanity. They just gave him over to the beast. And from my perspective, a lot of people need to have died for that. I mean, when you just don't know and you just ride off what somebody say, I understand y'all rapists, child molesters, all that gotta go. But I'm saying when you do not know the truth yet, when you can't just ride off what he and she say, you need more evidence, man. And when you don't have that evidence, then you are not in a position to exhibit or exercise any form or level of justice against nobody. So, those were beasts. Those were animals. Those wasn't men dealing with these kids. So we're talking about victims. One thing I want a victim to know. I want a victim to know that when you ask why me, why did this happen? Why did this have to happen to me out of all people, right? And you can name some people that you think are some pretty cruel people in the world that this should have happened to. Now, I can come up with a number of, I'm going to term it assumptions or answers or responses, better yet. I can come up with different ones, but I want to keep this simple and just say, for a victim who asks that question, you have to, wow, man. I already knew that when I started talking about this, it's going to be a tough one. Because again, my whole objective is to unpack this into where it fits along with Enlightening Minds Enterprise sole objective. How can I make this fit into a principle that you can use? And that's what my task is right now. So I'm saying a victim. You have rape victims. You have victims of all forms and kinds of injustice. You have kids born up in certain circumstances that it was out of their control. And they was brutal. They was all kind of things that may have happened to the child, whether it be male or female. That child is a victim. And one thing about a victim, if that victim doesn't handle that situation in the best way, is that victim is going to create other victims. These animals in the prison that took over and controlled this young brother Corey. 9 times out of 10, they was victims they damn self. They was in situations that they had no control over. And because of the hurt and anger that was developed and created out of that, instead of them using that in a productive way, what they did was use it in a destructive way and use it against others to destroy their lives. It happens. It do happen. So this is why this is very important, why finding out the better or the best way to deal with circumstances, because I believe we all have experienced it, where we became a victim of a situation that we did not create and we could not stop. In something, in some form, in some idea. whether we be kids or adults. So we can relate. And being that we've all dealt with it in some form, way, or fashion, if we did not deal with it in the way that I'm going to try to explain, in the best way, then 9 times out of 10, we have created some victims. We've taken the circumstances and pushed it forward, but in the wrong way. So this is what makes this so important. So what do a victim do? Well, the one thing, again, I want you to understand when you ask yourself, why me? Man, I can only tell you from my perspective. And as a believer in the supreme being, and my understanding and knowledge that he's in control of things, and he got a plan for everybody's soul. Everybody's soul has a purpose for being created. A purpose that is in alignment with glorifying him and fulfilling an obligation. See, you coming from that perspective, which is the only perspective I really can come from. From that perspective, I can only tell you that you have to know that what you experienced didn't have anything directly to do with you, like as a result of something you done, is the reason why you went through it. But the reason why you went through it I would say the reason why you went through it is because God knew who can handle what. Certain examples just has to be made. Certain sacrifices has to be made. He made certain promises to us about things that we do, and if that happens, this, that gonna happen, and so on and so forth. So he can't be a lie of his word. And what I mean is, like certain evils that are on the earth is as the result of what we produce with our hands. Not you yourself, if you the victim, if you done this, that, and other. I mean, I'm trying to keep this thing secluded to one particular idea. And the ideal is one who you didn't do nothing. Like these kids, you didn't do nothing to get what you got. Some victims as an adult have put some things in motion and only getting back what they put in motion. But I'm talking about a kind of victim that did not do anything as a child to receive a certain heartache and pain and destruction, or to be set in balance at such an early age by something that they did not create. I'm talking about this kind of person. I'm talking about a person that has experienced such as I just explained. For you, you have to believe to come out of this in the healthiest way, in a way to where you're not repeating certain cycles, where you're not re-experiencing the pain, and where you are not recreating it with other people. You see, a lot of times we say, I wouldn't wish this on nobody. Not everybody feel that way. Some people do wish that what they're going through on other people. People who get HIV and pass it on knowingly and intentionally. Not taking responsibility to... Yeah, so I had like an interruption, a technical interruption a minute ago. And so I had to get that taken care of, and now I'm coming back. And the last thing that I had said was that, you know, you have people who don't recover or go through an experience in the best way. And this particular type of victim that passes on their hurt to others, You know, I was talking about how you have like some people who catch HIV or something, and they intentionally pass it on to people. You know, uh, and versus an individual that goes through an experience, and let's say like the same example, a person who catches HIV and start a campaign of making people aware of it and how it's caught and so on and so forth. I mean, those are two different experiences where the individual responds to it or deals with it differently. You have one that becomes destructive as a result of the experience, and you have another one that produces life that becomes very productive as a result of the experience. And I believe that this is what makes this what I'm trying to manifest here so important, is that the way to go through the experience, the way of getting past or moving beyond a victim's state. And you have a lot of us who go through some of our situations where we are a victim to lies or abuse or something, and we go through it by building walls around ourselves. And I would say that is a not necessarily a productive way of going through it either, because while we may not intentionally go out and hurt others as a result of what we experience, but we may unintentionally hurt others because we didn't go through that experience trying to recognize certain roles that we may have played or not. Again, being mindful of that, the story of the Central Park 5 isn't what I'm applying to this, what I'm saying right now in regards to when we may actually play a role in what we experience. Because a lot of times, the average victim, the biggest portion or percentage of victims are individuals who actually play some type of role in what they experience, in the result of something that they didn't like, they didn't necessarily was banking on experiencing, and instead of looking at the role that they played in it, the voluntarily role that they played in, things that they did not do, a criterion that they may need to upgrade or didn't look at, whatever, but the role that they, instead of looking at that and looking at the imperfection of a human being is no greater than the imperfection of themselves, and understanding that everybody gravitates towards wanting to be happy in some form, way, or fashion, and people sometimes exercise that in a very unhealthy way. Instead of looking at that, sometimes the victim tends to just look at what the person done and say they shouldn't have done it, this, that, and other, and become somewhat like, it's like they take the position that if nothing I could have done, when in reality there was things you could have done. But this particular message isn't necessarily for that kind of victim. Let me reemphasize that this message is for the victim that was totally vulnerable to what happened to them. You know, and I'm saying mainly this happens to kids mainly. Yeah, it happens to some adults too, but this mainly happens to kids put in situations where those who were put over to protect them didn't protect them in the best way, whether it been a guardian or a parent or any other adult, like these law enforcement. They're put in a position to protect, not to manipulate, harm, and misuse or abuse their authority, but many of them do. So how do we get beyond that point when we go through such an experience? And again, you know, bear with me, because again, this actually has been hours since the first portion of this message was done, and so now I'm trying to rebuild it. But the how do we get past that point? I would say that for the person themselves, again, it's just, I believe that we have to strive to understand that it has to be, I may not understand why necessarily, why I went through it. It's not for me to necessarily understand why. But what I do understand is that I must utilize this experience for the betterment of others. I must make it to where others don't necessarily have to go through this experience. And it's by seeing the things that happened in that experience, how that happened, and why it shouldn't have happened. You know, and going making, whether it be parents and whoever else all plays a role in certain things happening. I have to go out and make sure that all these different people, the parents, the authorities, the children, everybody understands that this shouldn't happen, and things that we all could have and should do if ever put in certain situations. That is the only way that that as a victim I can take control of my life again and come out of this vulnerable victim state or place of being mentally, is by again taking personal control of my life. And see, that's what not being a victim is all about, is taking control of your life. Whenever you don't take control of your life in the best way, in the way again when you're going out producing good energy, producing life into the world, and when we don't do that, then anything opposite of that is also doing the opposite of that. And it's going to be more of a less benefit for oneself than it is for anyone else, because it's still our personal life that we have to live, and everything that we produce out of it is what we are dealing with in regards to our personal realities, the world that we create for ourselves, the situation that we will find ourselves in beyond that point. Because, I mean, the way we deal with something, it can get worse. You know, it may have been bad, but it can get worse if we don't deal with things in the best ways. Like with the Central Park 5, many of those brothers today talk about, say that they look for us to fail. They want us to be angry. They want us to venture out and want to get back and want to get revenge. They want us to do that. If we do that, we fail. We lose. They said that. They understand it. They get it. That man is, I can't relate. I've never experienced what they experienced, like literally, so I can't relate. I cannot put myself in their shoes and invalidate their experience, but I will say that they get it. They understand that they have to take from that experience and give to the world, give to others, so that they can do better for those who are in position of authority that allow that to happen to them. That they can do better. Also at the same time, making the young people aware of certain things as well, so that they can also understand their powers and things that they have to be aware of, because, you know, we have to still protect ourselves in certain aspects too. Maybe if they hadn't went to the park, maybe if they hadn't talked at all, maybe if they had, you know, I mean, again, I don't want to really talk too much specifically about some of the things that happened on there, because I don't want to take anything from what happened on there. I don't want to take anything from them guys' experience, and I don't want to take or try to place any responsibility on them as a child. I believe that the responsibility of the adults was to protect. The responsibility of the authorities was to do right by those kids, and they didn't. And the parents, because of their lack of knowledge, they weren't able to protect those kids in the best way. And so, again, my point is moving beyond a victim's position, and is that when you're totally a victim, when it's totally not your fault, it's things that you experienced as a child. Some people have been molested. Some people have been sexually assaulted. Some people have been abused emotionally, mentally, physically. So, I mean, in whatever area, because those are probably mainly the main areas, but whatever way that those things have haunted you today, because we have grew in a way, especially in the black community, we have grew in a way that we able to make our deficiencies and our pains and our ailments look sometimes okay, sometimes look beautiful. Sometimes we reach a point where we believe that we are all right. I don't have any problem. I don't have any issues in those areas. When we just may not be able to recognize it because we live in it so long to where we've been able to make it look good to others. But the thing is that if we've never dealt with them, if we've never faced them head on, if we've never talked about it, if we never talk about it, if we don't tell others about these things, if we're not honest with ourselves, how these things affected us then, and how they could possibly be affecting us now, if we're not honest about these kind of things, then it's a good possibility that we have not dealt with it, and that they are playing a very counterproductive role in our personal lives as well as in our social lives. It has a lot to do with why certain things isn't what we want it to be and what we believe it should be. So we have to look at some of the things that happened in our young years that we wasn't able to prevent from happening. So we have to look at some of these things and try to look at them and understand the possible damages that they may have caused and how we need to talk about it. We have to try to grow and get beyond it because, again, until we're able to use those experiences to help others, then we're not dealing with it. And then if we're not dealing with it, if we're not helping others with it, if we're not growing with it, if we're not being productive with it, then it's a good possibility that we are being unproductive with it, counterproductive with it. And in that way, it is hurting us on a personal level as well as on a social level. And so with all that being said, I hope I've said enough, and I hope you understand and you get it. Again, I fail to do this so much because what's most important to me is the message. But it's very important that you subscribe, that you like the videos, the page, my YouTube, my Instagram, Enlighten Minds Enterprise, Gerald Hassan D. Children, also known as Gerald Hassan, also known as Mr. Shift Your Perspective. It's very important that you subscribe and like because this makes the video circulate. It makes it available for more people to hear and see. This is just the way they have these social media pages hooked up. And so I would very greatly appreciate it. And again, peace and blessings.